Let's go to the last talk of this presentation, and I will be giving some adjourning talk of the conference and just elaborate on many issues which we have for the future, going for the future, and a little bit talk about, in a form of discussion. I wouldn't present some final results. It's just discussion on something which we observed and trying to use. Let's start with that. Just to answer the question, the people put on the front page their collaborator view from the picture of their collaborator's view from their window. So I did the same thing. So this is a collaborator, and at the same time there's my companion, whom I can see every morning in the window. Let's go down. The brief outline of that, it will not be just what I will talk about everything, but just major outline is we'll talk about a little bit about energy transfer following ultrafast excitation. The first a little bit about the material, why we thinking about indirect bandgap semiconductors is important. What is ultrafast excitation? What happens when we use the really short pulse to excite? What optics is there? What is the quasi-thermal equilibrium in electronic systems? What is the acoustic of excited material? What is the thermal equilibrium in the lattice after the excitation? Finally, a little bit about energy dissipation. Again, it relates to the first question, why we indirect bandgap semiconductor. Energy dissipation, photoluminescence, charges upon strain propagation, and the currents and detection observation. And finally, the effect we observed in experiment, and it was broadly discussed in, I would say, in engineering world mostly, which calls negative pulse response. Then just few words about the pump source. So what we see, how to manage that stuff, the motivation about the current conference, and what we think with Jim and Jason to move forward with our annual conference at Georgetown stuff. And eventually looking ahead, probably the part people most interested in, is looking ahead, what is accrete and what is beyond accrete. So the direct versus indirect. The indirect semiconductor is a kind of hot topic right now, because they're trying to build indirect semiconductor lasers, specifically based on, there is specifically many efforts on germanium on that. They already industry in a full swing to building light emitting diodes with strained germanium and other semiconductors. There is some many technology applications which probably can be used. Plus to that, we have a very clear path of development and development of phononic disturbance, phononic generation in and the lattice disturbances in indirect semiconductors. Here is just a little bit general picture saying what we have, direct, indirect, how the process is going, how upon the excitation we have filling the conduction bands, thermalization, how the this electronic state relaxing, and a little bit glimpse of why it's relaxing not really uniformly. So at some wavelengths, it's some energies is faster inside of this inside of the excitation, and the process, some wavelengths relaxing faster, some longer. And what we have out of that finally. So let's look at this first and experimental results published many years ago about the process called bleaching. So the people measured their transmissions of the indium antimonide on the ultrafast pulse excitation 100. The common thing people use a titanium sulfur. So and its derivative opio. So double opio here. So they go to 150 femtoseconds, and it's a 4.1 microns. And so they detected the overall bleach time is much more than 50 picoseconds at the measured time. It's a paper published 50 years ago. There is another paper, which mostly is a theoretical paper published on how this process is going through the ultrafast excitation. So we have here what's going on in the near surface layers of silicon and germanium, the generally two materials discussed here, mostly about silicon. We did it for germanium, but for our reasons, but here we have a silicon stuff. So you see that there is the top layer definitely is pretty much bleached, and going inside, you have a drop definitely because the pulse propagate, taking into account that we have about 4 refractive index of these both materials, 3.8 and 4.6, I assume, for germanium and silicon. So you have just in sometimes less than micron, sometimes around micron depths of total penetration. So we're talking about, actually, if we talk about from the point of view of engineering, we have the transitional heterostructure on the top of the bulk material, which is practically this real heterostructure, which can be really used into the semiconductor devices like the diodes and lasers and other stuff. So here is a picture. So what happens upon the relaxation? So when they eventually sliding down to the bottom of the conduction band, they start to relaxing, and eventually they relax pretty fast. As we know, it's the inside of picosecond time frame. Sometimes it's less than that, but eventually it's, so we talking about the like thermal equilibrium, but actually it's not exactly that, because lattice is still disturbed. Lattice is very slow. All this motion is pretty much on a much longer scale, and the recombination process didn't finish. It's still going on, and it's going on as long as, for example, for silicon is up to a microsecond, which is actively, if you look here, it's 100 nanoseconds, or a few hundred nanoseconds. It's pretty strong. It's talking about probably half of peak. So what's going on beyond of that process, beyond of electronic system? What's going on with lattice? This is a paper of our great presenter, Dr. Rafailov. And what he shows to us, when you have this mechanical motion, pressure wave going inside of the material, you practically corrupt the band gap. It's not only corrupting the band gap itself, but it's propagating inside of the material, propagating with acoustic velocities, which is practically slow. So it's going inside of material, it's going on the sides of material, longitudinal transversal waves. So they all disturbing this material, and it's all this disturbance is going on, not only at the time when we have an optical domain, in the previous slides, when we have still, but it's going on with acoustic wave propagating into the material. So it's disturbing the material inside, well beyond of this excitation domain. So, so what's we coming out of that? We coming at it another interesting stuff, which is a hot topic right now in the industry, which is transition from indirect to direct bandgap. So the germanium becomes a direct semiconductor, started to emit light, quite efficient. If you do that in a nano, how they called it, nano membranes, it would be very high efficiency light emitting diode. The same way you go down to germanium-based lasers. So it becomes, so we have about photoluminescence, which is practically well off the excitation time, or what the excitation relaxation time, what we talking generally here. So what's a few just observation what we have related to that stuff. So we have ultrafast pulse, 150 femtosecond, 800 nanometers. At some fluences, it started to demonstrate interesting behavior. So when you excite the material, it demonstrates so-called negative photoresponse, which means for some point the material, the material generate the charge which is opposite to what it's supposed to. In the same time, material is fully responsive. So the last chart you see the modulated light. No any signs of thermal processes, because if we do have a thermal processes, we should have a thermal noise. There is no thermal noise. The temperatures pretty much stay the same. So what best way to do that? To use a PIN diode, which we have like a bulk piece of semiconductor, intrinsic semiconductor, and there is a doped sides creating the junctions. So when these charges coming in, they separating and they're creating some kind of current. You can improve that to apply like a bias, but it's actually what demonstrating there is not practically the potential is strong enough to detect and see all these effects. So on the right, it just a little simulation shows that this is a pretty much very similar to underdamped harmonic oscillations, what happens in the common LRC, which is common harmonic oscillator in electrical circuitry, which can be modulated with spicy and other tools. So there is other detection of negative. It was kind of hot topic in engineering a few years ago when the people started to demonstrate they can do that. The fluences is about, I mean, they're not fluences, I'm sorry. The energies is in orders of higher, which is used in ultrafast transition, but the effect about the same. So this is explanation what we have done in the authors of that. There is this like thermal diffusion, but again, when we look at the other charts we have, it's modulated, it's pretty much congested with thermal noise. So this is a thermal process, and below this is just for the next slide. Beginning is a common response of very common in every places it does exist, the piezo detector to the laser pulse. So it detects how the piezo detector reacts to laser pulse. Definitely timing and definitely everything is different, but the shape. So there's a little just calculation what happens if we use thermal versus I mean a long pulse versus short pulse excitation, what happens, and just very general, there is a 3 times more effective using, and this is a very humble and very straightforward calculations, not supposed to just use a specific heat and all of this stuff. So to go to the next stop. So what happens at the optical domain and how we can look at that from the point of view of pump sources. First of all, you should look at that. There is the relaxation process is strongly, I would say, non-linear from the point of view of energies or point of view of the wavelengths of that. If you see the same for the same pulse duration, this is two different curves showing that how different is that. It's a dependence on the pulse width. And so why I asked the questions many times at this conference, did you try to use different pulse width? Because the excitation picture is completely different. You don't have this big deep drop at the relaxation process, at the bleaching process, when you have a pulse above 100 femtoseconds. Here is the concentration of the carriers, again, versus depths. Now here we just the two pulses, do two shape of how we can manage the how we can measure the phase of ultrashort pulse to make it negative or positive phase shifted. So it's a one way how to manage the penetration depths and how to manage that. So the brief conclusions to that would be, first of all, reaching of quasi-thermal equilibrium in electronic system takes picoseconds. Reaching of thermal equilibrium in lattice is less than hundreds. I mean, it's probably more than 100 nanoseconds. So we may create a heterostructure, transient heterostructure in a bulk material, and it creates some kind of great benefits for technology. And pretty much can be simulated in the form of just damped harmonic oscillation model. So coherent acoustic phonons and the strain initiated by them provide the indirect to direct band gap transition, huge technological advantage out of that. So the pump optimization is really critical. So we can work with dwell time, we can work with chirp. The actually 10 femtosecond is pretty much critical if we're talking about the excitation process for that. But if we go even down, let's say if we're talking about I would say it's pretty trivial ultra-fast laser with two cycles pulse width no less than that. So we can go well down of that if we're talking about near UV or even visible. So now there's some kind of, I wouldn't elaborate on that because it's in the process right now. The combination of ultra short and short pulse, how we called it injection and bias pulses, to create some kind of advantage of using that in metrology, to using that in electronics, etc. So the next step is a pump train optimization, again, envelope and PRR, pulse repetition rate. So in other things, the energy dissipation, we need to be reconsidered from the point of view of the carrier removal. If we have a way to do that, just electrically remove it in a photoluminescence, and eventually the propagation of this acoustic wave in the material is definitely delay all this energy dissipation up to acoustic scale. Again, the thermoelasticity versus cap is definitely, as already Pascal mentioned, he estimates a 10 order of magnitude I think it's even more if we're talking about shorter pulses. So the application perspective, this definitely create some kind of transient material, metastable material, creation of transient heterostructures, light emitting diode, terahertz radio frequency sources in antennas, and the lasing media, especially if we just look forward, just like quantum cascade laser with using activation with ultra-short pulse. So the motivation of this conference pretty much based on increasing attention to lattice disorders and how we can use the lattice disorder in all things related to transition of these great theoretical and experimental results in the practical world. So definitely the picosecond time frame is not what can be used for this transition. We need to go even a longer time, but go to a longer time, increasing the, if we need to extend it just for indefinite time, the pumping by consequence with train of pulses wouldn't be good if the heat accumulates in the system and the system eventually will go to just destruction or melting and something. So we need to somehow to extend that, and the way to extend it probably to increase the energy dissipation. Again, we're talking about this a little bit from one side, and another to extend the process of energy propagation, that it takes time to dissipate an energy. At that point we can shoot the next pulse when the system practically fully relaxed and exactly at equilibrium in order not to destroy that everything. So now I'm going to most interesting part. So we have our next symposium, which is a big one, because we trying to make this symposium more covering, I would say, vertically integrated and horizontally as well. Not only theory and experiments, but sources and material sciences as well. So we have initially 117 presentation. Now we have over 150 people, and we're hoping that we will do it in a live format, so live on the island, and the whole, all this projection what we have right now from the point of view what happens with this mayhem which we handled for the last few years. Well, the June for last 2 years was the months with minimum, at least relative minimum, these cases and other things. Maybe this is coincidentally, maybe this is a kind of pattern, but I think at any case, even if at the status which we are right now, it's probably somewhere at the top of the third or fourth, whatever people count as a wave of the pandemic. We will be able to go to Crete and get it in life. The only limitations we have on that stuff is the government regulations. The United States right now closed some Eastern European, and not only Eastern European, some Western European countries for travel. So people who go on business will not allow to go these countries or have some tough limitations on that stuff. So if it happens, it will be. But if it does not happen, which was last year and the year before, we go in live on island format will be that. Will be absolutely new program, and it will be set up in a differentiated small sessions, 3-5 presentations with limited number of attendees inside, and potential zooming of everything to the people in their rooms on the island in the hotel. You're definitely free and welcome to get together with your colleagues outside on the beach or everywhere, but we will not bring 150 plus, or maybe with local people, it's close to 200 people in one room, neither for like inaugural session, nor for the big gala reception or big gala dinner, or how it's planned like a theater, like Greek dances. So we have a losses in community. We lost 3 people, 3 speakers. I don't know exactly, but if I do, I have no way to share that with you, the reason, but we lost some of our speakers. And I'm afraid that during this conference, we have 2 people fall sick just at the time of the conference. I worry about these people. Don't know what the reason of that. It's pretty private stuff, but it's a little bit. It's not infusing. So number 5, new, revised, yes. If you change something, if you do some new interesting studies and you don't like to present old one, you're free to present new things. You can change the topic entirely, go to different areas. You are open to do that. Your previous work will not go anywhere. It's already printed. It's already available. Will be another volume of abstract proceedings. I know people saying some people saying we don't need it, it's pretty old stuff, but for me it's nice to have it on my desk, to look at that stuff, to touch it, to have a memory, and I think we deserve to have it. So the new color abstract proceeding will be published for new and revised presentations, as well as it was done for the original one. And finally, again, I repeat it, we wholly depending on real situation and government restrictions. So the government allow, we will go. If not allow, we will not. Most of the things on the left I already said about these things, but you can read that. I don't like to. There's no big black tie gala, no cocktail reception, no organized entertainment, everything. So good things is the ability to extend the stay in both direction before and after, so you can bring the family and enjoy the island in the peak of the season. So other things not as important. 2 things, number 6 and number 7 on the left. Registration will be open in March, not earlier, when we pretty much sure that everything goes how we planned. There's no like big and fundamental changes in these things, and will be special personal announcement to everybody who were original speakers or who signed up for that just recently. And the last things, be careful about imposters. I already got a few messages from people, and some people even paid something. No payments, nothing, is no registration yet. So wait until announced. So at that point, let me adjourn the conference. Definitely questions, I'm sure. Please, and yeah, what I see here. Okay.
So the conference in Crete is only for people who go there in person, right? So it's not a mixed format. For some people attend via Zoom and some go in person. Is that correct?
Well, we didn't think about this, but I think it's possible to do. It's we're pretty much open to do any format which we want to do. We just thought the people just willing to go, but if people willing to present or attend, again, the format supports that, because again, we have so say 3 presenters in the room, and the rest is sitting in their hotel rooms. and listening to them asking the question the same way. So why you cannot sit in Tucson if
there is no, as you well know, there is no ocean in Tucson, but
oh, yes.
it's a different question.
Yes. So I
Okay,
think
thank
it's
you.
okay.
I'd like to just make a quick announcement with regards to the wrap up of this conference. So we will, I believe Michael has an abstract book that's going to get put onto the website. Is that correct, Michael?
Yes. It will be printed.
So
and
that will be getting put up on the website, and I will be extracting individual presentations and putting them up, the videos up on the website as well. So there'll be, so everything will be available. It's probably going to take me until after Thanksgiving before all of that is done, but I'll probably be adding them as I finish them. So, so you can see them there as they get finished and put up.
And again, I didn't say, I'm sorry, I just PS, like the beyond of the creed. So we have some ideas of bringing the conference to, tentatively it was Paris for 2023. Luca is not here, unfortunately. We didn't have a chance to talk to him, but a few months ago we discussed it with him, and he was pretty much enthusiastic about this stuff. So tentatively, we are looking for 2023 to have the conference in Europe. It's number one. Number two, we definitely will have our annual conference at Georgetown University in 2022. When it will be we will discuss it with Jim. We will discuss it with Jason. We will look at the results, how it was currently as it was done, what the pitfalls, what's the problem, what's the benefits of that, what's the format, reduce, increase number of speakers, just separate the different sessions. Maybe to do this, initially we thought to have a special sessions, for example, for Japan and Russia, maybe just to separate that, because what I see here, people from Japan, they gradually dropped after 2 a.m. of their time. So they disappearing. And I can understand these things, and I really appreciate their diligence and their dedication to the topic, to staying. Koichiro had his great presentation. It's 23 at 11 a.m. 11 p.m. of his time. So we will talk about this. So at that point we have this, and the final. I was asked the question why we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and after that 7. Well, and let me explain that. Now it's 8. In 2019, we planned a Euro-Asian conference in St. Petersburg, Russia. Sasha Kalashnikov was chair of this conference. She planned to, I suppose, to do some Zooming stuff, and she planned to do that in St. Petersburg. Unfortunately, we have this mayhem. But this conference, you can see this probably on the Yoffie Institute website, still in place, and we're still thinking with some days we can do this conference as well. So please, if you have more questions, please. Okay, thank you very much. Let's me adjourn the conference. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jason. Thank you all attendees for your great work and great dedication. I see right now it's close to 10 of your time in Europe. And
I would like to just especially thank Michael, who really did the lion's share of all the work for this conference. So please, everyone, let's give Michael some applause for putting together a really great program.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you for organizing this workshop.
Yes,
Excellent
thank you.
job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kit. Thank you, Vladislav. Thank you, Gregor. Thank you. So probably we need to close, Steph.
Well,
All right, everyone, we're done.
Bye-bye.
Anyone who wants to hang out and talk,
Goodbye.
you can, but we're done.
Thank you again.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for organizing and thanks for having me. So nice meeting
Hi,
you
Robert.
virtually.
Oh,
Great.
I see so many
Thank you very
people.
much.
I just, wow, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you can also, if you stop sharing, we can see people a little bit bigger too,
Oh, okay.
at least those who are still here.
Okay, anyway.
I'll stop it.
Okay, good.
There you go.
So thank you very much. And looking forward to meet all of you in Crete in person and just to return back to normal life and normal well-being. Thank
Yeah,
you.
who knows what's going to happen though.
Well,
Let's,
just
we'll keep our fingers crossed that whether the Crete will actually be a possibility, because even that's not completely clear. So
yeah. But I think if we have a government, if we don't have a government restrictions on travel, we pretty much. And again, what we saw from the last 2 years of that, June is the safest month of the year, June, July, and we exactly on that time frame.